Arion's story is fascinating because, unlike many teenage hackers, he didn't squander the millions he had allegedly stolen on luxury watches or designer clothes. Instead, he chose to use the money to pay off employees and purchase exploits to commit bigger and bigger hacks. He wanted access to what companies wanted to protect from the public the most, so he could leak it online no matter the consequences. And that's how he found himself at 17, out on bail, placed in a one-star hotel room for his personal safety while awaiting trial. See, the address of his childhood home was no longer safe. Months earlier, rival hackers had leaked it, and these intimidating videos appeared on the website Doxbin. He felt secure at the hotel, and the court-ordered internet ban meant nothing to him. He had no plans of letting this latest encounter with the law slow down his hacking spree. He had purchased himself an Amazon Fire Stick, Bluetooth keyboard, and mouse, presumably from the Argos next door. Plugged into the Travelodge TV, he was able to remote into a virtual computer. The screen flickered with messages from unknown members of Lapsus, the notorious data extortion group known for their high-profile cyber attacks that had already cost companies millions of dollars in damages. Arion was a key member, and now they were setting their sights on Rockstar Games. On September 18th, under the alias Teapot Uber Hacker, a nod to his earlier breaches, Arion makes a post to a Grand Theft Auto fan site. "Hi, here are 90 clips from GTA 6. It's possible I could leak more data soon, including source code and assets." The internet was on fire. Rockstar's entire teaser campaign was spoiled, years of work, and they were desperately trying to issue copyright claims to bring down every YouTube video and news source sharing the leaked footage. Internally, using a compromised employee's account, Arion was now demanding on Rockstar's Slack channel that someone contact him or he would leak the source code. Instead, they removed his access and contacted the FBI. 4 days later, at 9 p.m., a group of London police officers waited outside room M15 for the right moment to bust in. Every decision Arion had made in his life led up to this moment, and now, just 4 months away from turning 18, the legal system was about to get much tougher. There would be no bail this time around. But that's only if they could prove it was him. He still had a few tricks up his sleeve yet. Arion hadn't become an FBI most wanted hacker overnight. Like most cyber delinquents born in 2005, he got his first taste of hacking on Minecraft PvP servers. At some point, someone must have spooked him, because except for some intense dirt bike action and these Roman Atwood fan videos, most of Arion's early digital footprint has been wiped clean, likely done in an effort to conceal his identity. But in 2017, we do know he was playing Minecraft mainly on these 3 accounts. And this video by DogIZ gets posted accusing him of using a cheat client on Minecraft to get an advantage in PvP. I guess the report worked because shortly after, he's posting on the server's forum trying to get unbanned. Now look, while this stuff is childish on the surface, it helps us understand how he made his leap into his later, much more serious crimes. I've talked about it before, but often the forums where these Minecraft hacks come from have sections on them for hacking and cyber fraud in a more general sense. And like many kids before him, he was slowly getting interested in all of it. By mid-2018, he had shifted his focus to a more complex form of Minecraft hacking. We can see this report from a server admin trying to figure out what exploit Arion abused to log in as an administrator and likewise grief their server. This was a little more sophisticated than just downloading a cheat client. He had found a bug in the code the server was running that let him gain privileges he truly shouldn't have access to. And this type of thing was clearly front of his mind because he's on Hypixel again, asking them to introduce a bug bounty program to get rewarded for reporting these types of exploits. He got shut down, and this was the last time he would ever try and do good with an exploit. Now, this stuff was fairly simple. Many wannabe hackers got on bucket.org and read bug reports for popular server plugins, then abused them before the devs had a chance to fix them. But I think something clicked in his head. This type of unauthorized access would become the basis of how Arion would later exploit many of the world's biggest companies. And by December 2019, now almost 15 years old, we can see from this Twitter post he had moved on from Minecraft to experimenting with website exploitation. They've defaced this nasa.gov page and put up all their handles on it because this type of thing was really just about bragging rights within hacking communities. And Googling some of the names here, these guys seem to have a reputation. One had previously been arrested in connection with hacking the Vivo YouTube channel and changing the thumbnails and descriptions of popular music videos like Despacito to, well, this. On top of that, some of the members here are linked to several high-profile data breaches, a questionable group to say the least, and seemingly more advanced than Arion at the time. He was clearly making new friends, which was something he likely struggled with in real life. From all accounts, he seemed to have a troubled youth. According to his childhood doctor, Nicholas Hinley, it was around this time in his early teens that his formal education ended, instead being enrolled in a special needs school. He was also briefly taken from his home and placed into social care after physically assaulting his mother. But after being attacked by a staff member there, who was convicted for the act, Arion's mom took him back, but reportedly always struggled to control his computer use. On top of all these behavioral problems, his parents seem to be separated, and according to Hinley, Arion is diagnosed with autism, ADHD, among other unnamed complex health diagnoses. He, quote, functions at best at the level of 1% of his peers. Despite this, it certainly wasn't going to hold him back when it came to hacking. It seems likely Arion would have wanted the acceptance from this new friend group who clearly glorified this sort of online vandalism for public bragging rights. The trouble is, the cycle never ends. Hack something, brag about it, and then do it again in a bigger way until one or more of the members get caught. And for Arion, this cycle would truly kick off in 2021. 16 years old, now operating under the username Peter, Arion had teamed up with another hacker going by the handle Everlyn to form a new group called Infinity Recursion. And take a peek at this post they made on crack.to. In case you aren't privy, this forum is an infamous discussion hub and marketplace for illicit online activities. So of course they're promoting a warrant/subpoena service. See, by using compromised law enforcement emails, they were able to issue fake legal requests demanding companies release data on whoever they wanted. What sensitive information do you have with any of these companies? It's not just your real name, address, phone number, and billing information. It's possibly every message you ever sent, photo you shared. How could that be abused if it got into the hands of a threat actor? I'm actually surprised they had this sales thread up, and were offering to do it for so little. $250 seems like a drop in the bucket compared to what they were likely profiting off this sort of access themselves. See, the group had a primary focus on SIM swapping. I've mentioned this in my other videos, but SIM swapping is a trick where someone takes over your phone number. This lets them reset your passwords and gain access to your accounts. Often, large crypto holders storing coins on online exchanges are the targets. But the hardest piece of that puzzle has always been figuring out the victim's email address and phone number. Fake subpoena requests were the perfect way to get that information. And we know Arion personally was stealing a ton of money alongside this group. The trouble is, victims always desperately want justice, and so you've got to be clever enough to cover your tracks. On top of that, the wheels of justice take a long time to turn, and so if Arion hadn't been diligent enough, it was going to take a little while for any of that to come back to him. For the time being though, he had a little money to fund bigger and better hacks, which was important because, like most of these groups, for one reason or another, they disbanded after a short period of time. But not everybody was ready to call it quits. And so by the end of 2021, Arion and the remaining members decided to form a new group called Lapsus. I think he was disappointed that Infinity Recursion never got media attention in a big way. I think he craved recognition, wanted to forge a legacy as one of the most notorious hackers, and this was going to be his opportunity to do it. Their sights were now fixed on much more substantial targets, and if the feds weren't already trying to find them, they would be soon. Kinda like how bad guys are looking for you online. Thankfully, Aura is the sponsor of this video. Arion and friends would have been Googling their victims' names to pull up all sorts of personal information. There's all these people finders, like the modern equivalent of a phone book, and beginner ethical hacking courses always cover how to abuse these to find people's personal information because it's often been put up without you even knowing. A phone number can be SIM swapped. A family member or company you work for can be subject to a spear phishing attack. The list goes on and on. Not just that, but these data brokers are making a fortune selling your information to robocallers. Ever wonder where all those spam calls were coming from? Now you know. Luckily, Aura can identify data brokers exposing your information and submit opt-out requests on your behalf. Brokers are legally required to remove your info if you ask them to, but they make it super hard to do it. Let Aura handle it for you, and now you don't have to worry about Arion and his merry gang of goons coming at you. As you'll soon learn, Arion love to hack companies and leak their databases online. These types of leaks often include passwords, and here's an illegal website where I can pay money to search your email on. If you've been reusing passwords across all your services, well, I'm getting free Netflix, but others might be stealing all your RuneScape gold, or a lot worse. Aura is bundled with a password manager that'll warn you if any of your information has been exposed this way. Plus, it'll make it easy to use a unique password for everything, so you won't face a credential stuffing attack exactly as I just described. You also get a VPN, identity theft insurance, and more. There's even parental controls if you got a few Rugrats running around. I think Arion's mom should have had that for him. You literally get everything I'd ever recommend using for one affordable price. So you can either let people continue to exploit and profit off your private information, or you can go to aura.com/crumb to start your 2-week free trial. The link's also in the description. That's probably just easier. Go click the link. Just weeks before Christmas, Lapsus kicks off with a bang. The Brazilian Ministry of Health website with all its vital healthcare services have been replaced with this page demanding payment for the return of over 50 terabytes of stolen data. This was making big headlines. It is especially scummy to target essential health services. But the security community wasn't raising any eyebrows yet. New hacks happen every day, and this group didn't seem particularly sophisticated. Normally, such an attack would involve encrypting data with ransomware. To just outright delete it felt a little lazy, if not novice. Likewise, it didn't appear that they made any profit from this. After being down for a couple of weeks, the ministry managed to regain access to their website independently and recovered their data from unaffected backups. Their new group wasn't wasting any time though. By the new year, they had attacked Brazil's largest media conglomerate. Then, 3 days later, they hit a Brazilian-based car rental company. Except this time, they weren't trying to get money out of them. They just made their website redirect to your favorite adult video site. And for the first time, their Telegram server is making an appearance in these news articles. See, they had been using it to publicly share information on their hacks. And the member count had steadily been growing every time one of these stories went out. And I think Arion was finding this attention intoxicating. But before the authorities could even begin to seriously investigate this, Lapsus members began leaking screenshots on their Telegram, implying that they had breached their first American target, Okta. Okta is a business-to-business cybersecurity solutions company, and the screenshot showed their internal applications, their Jira bug ticketing system, and the company's Slack channels. It was really embarrassing. Lapsus hadn't stolen data this time around, but claimed their focus was on targeting Okta's valuable customer base. Intentional or not, this sent a message. They were able to infiltrate companies that specialize in providing security against these exact sort of attacks. The news headlines were only made bigger by the fact that Okta was facing criticism for not promptly informing their customers about the breach. Still, with millions of eyeballs, no one had been able to figure out who was behind Lapsus. But overnight, that was about to change. Just a month into the group's debut hacking streak, and Arion's name and address get leaked on Doxspin. If you're one of the boomers that watch my videos, you might be wondering what doxing is. Well, imagine waking up one morning to find all your personal information splattered on various forums and websites for the world to see. Now you have strangers sending you threatening voicemails, ordering anchovy pizzas to your house, wreaking havoc on your credit score. You've just been doxed. Doxspin is a popular and beloved website for sharing such personal information within the community. So how did such a seemingly intelligent hacker get himself exposed here? Well, Arion actually bought the whole damn thing off the then owner KT just weeks before kicking off this Lapsus hacking streak. Unfortunately for Arion, he knew nothing about managing the site or just didn't care to, and he drove it into the ground, which angered all of the Doxspin users who retaliated by targeting and harassing him. Come January, it got so bad that he agreed to sell Doxspin back to KT for only 20% of the price he originally paid for it. Now essentially out $75,000, he was having some seller's regret, angry about the money he lost lost, probably an ego thing too, Arion locked the domain and stole the Discord vanity in an attempt to regain control of the website. But his spiteful attempt failed because KT regained access in just a few hours. More angry that he was outwitted so easily, Arion hacked into the Doxman Twitter account and offered $100,000 to anyone willing to provide a full dox or any information at all on who KT was. 5 hours later, KT regains access to the Twitter account and taunts Arion for his second pitiful attempt to surpass him. It was at this point that Arion decided to leak the entire Doxman database to the public through Telegram before relinquishing the website back to KT. Needless to say, the entire Doxman community was now furious that he leaked their data online, and this isn't a group that you want to piss off. Within 2 days, a full-blown retaliation plan was underway. KT sent 2 of his finest posh scholars to Arion's mother's house to snap a few intimidating videos and photos outside. They then knocked on the door and asked if he could come out to play. His mom said he wasn't home, so the 2 started boogieing 20 minutes down the road to show up at his father's house. But she was already one step ahead, called them to give them a heads up, and by the time the goons arrived, there was already a police vehicle waiting outside. Upon seeing this, they made a swift escape via an Uber. The next day, possibly the most thorough docs ever posted on the site goes live, revealing not only Arion's identity to the world, but worse, in the opening paragraphs, his involvement with Lapsus. For the first time, there was a name connected to the group. On top of that, a bunch of damning accusations. They alleged that Arion had stolen over 300 bitcoins, worth $14 million, through his various cybercriminal operations, but, quote, gambled a large amount to impress like-minded idiots, with the rest being left on an open server, which was compromised twice. This post went up on January 8th, and by January 22nd, news broke that he had been arrested. It worked. Just a month shy of his 17th birthday, Arion was detained alongside an unnamed 16-year-old accomplice. 5 months earlier, UK telecommunication giants BT and EE had suffered a ransomware attack. The two had allegedly demanded $4 million. This was never paid, but they were also being accused of exploiting their unauthorized access to perform SIM swaps on 5 customers, subsequently stealing a total of £100,000 from their Bitcoin accounts. Arion pleaded guilty to some aspects of the charges. He admitted to being involved in conducting the swaps, but denied the blackmail allegations. Despite this, both Arion and his accomplice were let go pending further investigation. The authorities likely didn't have enough evidence. Arion had a habit of conducting all his fraud on virtual private servers, so even if they seized his personal computer, nothing would be on it. He got lucky, extremely lucky. But even with his name now publicly associated with Lapsus, I think this encounter with the law just made him feel more invincible than ever. He could do whatever he wanted, turn Lapsus into a full-blown media sensation, and get away with it, or so he thought. Not even a month later, the hacks kick off again, this time targeting bigger and bigger companies. On Telegram, they were boasting about having a terabyte of stolen data from NVIDIA with, quote, complete silicon, graphics, and computer chipset files for all recent GPUs. Except, instead of the usual monetary demands, they wanted NVIDIA to open source their drivers. See, around this time, limited hash rate was a controversial subject. NVIDIA was planning to implement this feature to limit their effectiveness in cryptocurrency mining. There was a huge shortage of cards, and miners had long been snapping them up in bulk to use for profit. This was meant to stop that problem, increasing the access for people who wanted graphics cards to play video games. Of course, the miners were pissed, and even the hardest of tech enthusiasts always hate the idea of proprietary software limitations on their hardware. And now they were seeing this demand as a noble request, because by open sourcing them, it would not only mean greater transparency, but possibly even allow for modifications to bypass this limited hash rate feature entirely. It made people begin to question the group's true motives. What kind of hackers would act in such a selfless way? They could have asked NVIDIA for millions of dollars. Instead, it seemed like a blatant attempt to become some kind of modern-day Robin Hoods who would bully corporations and give back to the people. However, 3 days later, there was bad news. Check out this message posted in their Telegram. They claimed NVIDIA launched their own counterattack on the computer they used to steal the data, effectively making it unusable. They claimed to have a backup, but not everyone was convinced. In response to this criticism, the group would go on to publish the credentials of over 71,000 NVIDIA employees, proving that they had indeed broken into their servers, but the actual 1 terabyte leak never came. It's likely they didn't have a backup as stated. Nevertheless, this marked the start of their biggest rampage yet, and to kick it off, they had a make good. They released a 190GB torrent of Samsung's internal data, including the source code to their Galaxy phones, another thing that countless tech enthusiasts have been begging the company to do for years. Many were now praising Lapsus as the new hip and cool Anonymous. But this was just the tip of the iceberg. Within the next couple of days, Arion and friends hacked into Ubisoft and T-Mobile. They're loving the attention, but the security world is wondering, how do they keep getting into some of the world's top technology companies this easily? That question would soon be answered, because on the 20th of March, Arion thought they could hack into Microsoft and walk away unscathed, but old Billy Boy had other plans. Lapsus first posted a screenshot of Azure's DevOps server and released a 37GB zip file containing source code from Microsoft servers. This breach immediately triggered Microsoft to utilize all their resources towards finding the identity of the hackers. Just a day later, they're listed on the FBI Most Wanted list. I think this must have finally startled Arion, because after all he had done to make life difficult for KT and ruin Doxspin, he was now pleading for help. He wanted to bribe KT to remove his docs and spread false information stating he had no ties to Lapsus. This totally backfired. Instead, just 2 days after the FBI poster went up, KT makes an update to Doxspin revealing all of this. Things were getting very risky now. That same day, Microsoft published an extensive security report outlining exactly how the group operated. The Microsoft report findings were embarrassing, not so much for Arion and his crew, as for Microsoft themselves. You see, it was revealed the group's primary vector for infiltrating corporate networks was not by means of complex code exploitation or bug discovery tactics, but instead by using social engineering. To reference Microsoft's 10 immutable laws of security, Lapsus preyed on number 1, which states that if a bad guy can persuade you to run his program on your computer, it's not solely your computer anymore, and number 6, a computer is only as secure as the administrator is trustworthy. Arion knew the easiest point of infiltration for any company was its employees, so you would expect them to be deploying cutting-edge social engineering tactics and tools to pull off such spectacular hacks. But the reality is pretty harsh. In fact, their hacks become much less impressive when you take a look through their Telegram, where they were literally posting bribes for corrupt employees willing to abuse their access. $20,000 a week to hand over, in most cases, login credentials and VPN access. I can see why this was more than tempting, but I wouldn't be surprised if these people never got paid. Despite all of this, they evidently didn't take their own security very seriously, because come March 24th, 4 days after the Microsoft hack, news breaks that UK police had detained 7 people, the youngest being 15 and the oldest 21, in connection with Lapsus. You'd think, just like that, the jig was up. Except it wasn't, because the Lapsus Telegram channel was still active. They hadn't caught everyone. Before the month could end, they were posting images showing they had infiltrated Globin, an IT firm with 23,000 employees working with all of the top tech companies. Going after the contractors was a common Lapsus tactic. And the images they posted showed folders like Apple Health App, Facebook, and DHL. This access consequently meant that they could hack a whole lot more companies given the right circumstances. But before they could exploit this, a tweet by the City of London Police goes live on April 1st. But this was no joke. Arion, along with another teenager, had finally been picked up. Having just turned 17, he was facing a slew of offenses under the Computer Misuse Act, serious violations that would demand a lengthy trial. Sentencing was not going to be quick. Luckily for him, he wasn't going to need to wait around in a cell. He was released on bail the very next day for an undisclosed sum. The court had imposed a 1-month internet suspension, as if that was going to keep him away from hacking more companies. While he had gotten lucky again, he knew his time was running short. He was due back in court on the 29th and was facing jail time. The thing is, most of the details around Arion's case have been kept private due to him being a minor at the time of the arrest. We do know his defense was arguing he was mentally unfit to stand trial, necessitating extensive medical evaluation, meaning the sentencing would be delayed for many months. And at some point, likely due to ongoing harassment, media scrutiny, and in an effort to keep him away from the internet, they decided to safeguard him at a hotel. But one night, likely in early September, he made his way over to the Argos next door. There, he made an unusual purchase: an Amazon Fire Stick, typically used for watching TV shows and movies. However, he had a different plan in mind. After leaving the store and returning to the hotel room, he plugged the Fire Stick into the TV and paired it with a Bluetooth keyboard and mouse. He had made himself a makeshift computer, likely downloaded the web browser from the Fire Stick App Store, used it to remote into a virtual private server, the same type his group had been using since the beginning to commit their hacks. 5 months had now passed since the time of his latest arrest, and the pressure was likely mounting. Arion knew this might be the last chance he gets to exploit more companies, and he wasn't going to let it slip by. On the 15th of September, news breaks that a lone cybercriminal penetrated Uber. This hack was reported to have exposed sensitive customer information and internal tools, subjecting Uber's millions of customers to an array of security risks. But none of this got leaked online. Instead, Arion reached out to security researchers with proof of his access, stating he was interested in publicity. See, the Lapsus Telegram channel has been inactive since the Globant leak, which was posted just days before he was arrested. It's likely he had lost access to the server when they confiscated his devices, and now he no longer had the platform that he was getting all the attention for these hacks on. And so this was his attempt at, again, getting media coverage. It worked. This incident seriously damaged Uber's reputation and eroded public trust in the company's ability to safeguard personal information as article after article went out. But still, Arion wanted more, and within 24 hours he would commit his most famous breach yet that would cause the internet to go crazy. After curating a list of employees that worked for Rockstar Games, including phone numbers and emails, he acted as an employee who couldn't remember their password. It worked, except the account didn't have permission to log into the backend he wanted, and so he tried again. This time, he was able to gain control of a contractor's account. Now in the company's Slack channel, he was able to get the login details of an employee who had access to the channels associated with game development. This included all sorts of highly confidential files, in-progress videos, and even source code for the highly anticipated Grand Theft Auto 6. The game having been in development for nearly 10 years, with an estimated cost of $1 billion. As you know, Arion is not the person you want your billion-dollar project to fall into the hands of. Just 2 days after getting access, under the alias Teapot Uber Hacker, a nod to his earlier breach, he makes a post to a Grand Theft Auto fan site. Hi, here are 90 clips from Grand Theft Auto 6. It's possible I leak more data soon, including source code and assets. This was the moment millions of fans were waiting for, but at first, no one believed him. They thought the download link was either a virus or a carefully curated fake. With some convincing on his part, eventually people realized it was real. Arion had done the impossible by confirming GTA was actually coming out. As you might have guessed, the internet went wild. Footage of the game immediately went viral on YouTube, Twitter, Reddit as news article after news article went up. Many were applauding the hacker, with others speculating on who he was and what his motives were. Rockstar was now desperately trying to issue copyright claims to take down the leaked footage. Their teaser campaign was ruined. Internally, they had another problem. Arion was using the compromised employee's account to demand on their Slack channel that someone contact him, otherwise he would leak the source code. Instead, they removed his access and contacted the FBI. 4 days later, at 9 p.m., a group of London police officers waited outside room M15 for the right moment to bust in. Arion's luck had run out. While seizing his makeshift computer, the police discovered an iPhone 13 Max under his bed. Arion refused to share the PIN, but they were later able to see the same model phone was used to log into the hacked Rockstar accounts. Since he violated bail, he was immediately taken to the Feltham Young Offenders Institute while awaiting trial. Doctors have gone on record saying he has been extremely distressed, throwing urine at guards and destroying prison infrastructure. Come August 2023, 11 months after the hotel raid, he'd finally get a chance to leave the institute, only to attend court in London for a 7-week trial. Being charged alongside the same unnamed hacker involved in the BTEE case, they faced a 12-count indictment for blackmail, fraud, and hacking. Defense lawyers argued that the evidence was not strong enough and that there was no way of knowing Arion was responsible for the hacks. The jury ruled otherwise, finding Arion guilty for all charges, while his co-defendant was only found guilty on 3. However, Arion's complex autism spectrum disorder led to a ruling of unfitness for trial, despite his primary role in the offenses. Thus, he couldn't be convicted of criminal intent, leaving only community service or psychiatric care as sentencing options. The final decision would be up to Judge Patricia Lees, and she had a lot to consider. Lapis had caused millions in damages, but none of the companies had admitted to paying any ransoms, and police hadn't been able to access the crypto accounts associated with the teens. It seems the group's motivations were for notoriety, money, and just lols. Lawyers for the prosecution said police investigators and experts managed to link Arion and his fellow hackers to various incidents through IP addresses, emails, Telegram chat groups, and their signature methods. Like the Wet Bandits in Home Alone, Lapsus had a calling card in the form of crude images. In the Uber hack, for instance, a picture of a naked, elongated private part was uploaded to the chat. A representative from Rockstar estimated that the company spent over $3.5 million in legal communications and vendor costs due to the hack. The GTA 6 trailer officially went live on December 4th, and since Arion has been placed in a 12-week hospital stay after being diagnosed with a mental illness due to his ongoing behavior in the Young Offenders Institute. Psychiatrist Dr. Claudia Camden Smith stated during a December 8th hearing that Arion flat out said he planned on returning to his life of cybercrime upon his release during an assessment. There doesn't look like there is much that can be done in the way of rehabilitating Arion. He likely faces a future in psychiatric care rather than prison. His sentence remains undecided, with multiple delays and no clear indication of when a final decision will be reached. To this day, Lapsus has remained inactive since the Globant leak. Little is known about the circumstances around the other arrested members. It's likely many are carrying out new hacks to this very day under new nicknames, utilizing more sophisticated operational security measures and exercising heightened caution. But those are stories for another day.